Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another exciting session of Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. My name is Joe Grabowski, and for those who don't know, we're all about bringing science, adventure, and conservation into classrooms, North America, and beyond. And I'm really excited for today's hangout with Rob Nelson from Untamed Science. But before I give Rob a little intro, I'd like to introduce our classrooms. We've got a nice big group of classrooms joining us today. We have, let's see, Mrs. Sutherland's class. They're grade 3-4s joining us from Thunder Bay, Ontario. We have Mrs. Cowley's grade 7s. They're joining us from Sarnia, Ontario. Got Mrs. Edgar's grade 4s joining us from Hutchinson, Kansas. Mrs. McLaren from Toronto, Ontario. And I believe she has a mixture of grades 3 through 8 today. And then last but not least, we have Mrs. Murray joining us. They're grade 7 and 8s from Spring Lake Heights in New Jersey. So a great group of classrooms from the US and Canada. Our guest today, though, is Rob Nelson. He's a marine biologist. He's also lead producer and executive director of Untamed Science. He's an award-winning author, Emmy-winning filmmaker, and the hosted shows on Animal Planet, Discovery, Nat Geo, and the Science Channel. So Untamed Science, the mission is to make science education fun through videos and content where the kids have a good time, but they learn along the way. And in order to make these videos, we get to use some pretty cool camera technology, and that's what Rob's going to share a little bit with us today. So Rob, great to have you here. Thanks for hanging out with us today, and we're looking forward to seeing a little camera action.
All right, fantastic. Well, hey, for all of you who are out there, it is really fun for me to be able to talk to you. I can see every single one of you. So as I'm going through, I might ask some questions, and I can see you if you raise your hand or not, which is really fun for me. First of all, I have a question for everybody. Who likes to watch animal videos on TV? I'm just curious. Do you guys like that? All right. Well, that's good because that's what I do. I like to do science, and I like to explain it in a really fun way. So I'm just going to give you a little bit about my background. But first, how many people have seen any of the videos that I've done? Did your teacher show you any of the videos? I'm curious. All right. Well, that's good. That's good. So if anybody hasn't seen them, then you can watch them afterwards. But I think they're fun, and they're fun to watch. So, okay, a little bit about me, about my background. When I was about your age, in middle school, I looked over the edge of my dock. You know, we had a lake house, and I was on the dock, and I kind of looked over, and I saw all these little tiny creatures swimming. They weren't fish, and I didn't know what they were, and I just wanted to learn more and more about them. And I got in my head this idea that there were so many things out there that I wanted to discover. And I started to learn more about biology, and I don't know if you guys can see back here behind me, but I have lots and lots of books that talk about plants and animals, and I would read them every night. And then I went off to school. I actually studied in Miami and in Hawaii. I don't know if anybody's been to Hawaii. Anybody been to Hawaii? Nobody's been. When you go, you're gonna love it. Because what I did, I actually spent most of my time there living on a sailboat and studying fish, and it was the best job ever. So these are some of the fish I've studied over the years. These are not Hawaiian fish. These are Amazonian fish. They are now permanent fixtures on my wall. In fact, let me show you. I'm going to screen share with you real quick what I actually studied. Oh, now here I go. Okay, entire screen. There we go. Okay. Okay, so this is what I studied. I studied the Hawaiian shrimp Gobi. You see that fish there? He actually lives with a shrimp, and they live in a hole together, and the shrimp comes out and cleans the hole, and the Gobi, the little fish, sits outside of the hole and stays guard and makes sure that if a predator comes, he lets that shrimp know. And I thought that was really cool. And I basically finished doing school and decided I wanted to do videos. I wanted to do filmmaking. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just share with you guys a really short 3-minute video that talks a little bit about my mentality, what I like doing. I think it's a video you probably haven't seen. And so I'm going to open it up, and just fingers crossed you guys are able to see the entire thing. And I'm going to make it really big here. And and then I'll come back right afterwards.
Hey, Rob.
Yep.
I think because your headphones are in, we're not getting the sound.
Oh, I see. Okay, let's do this. Now let's try it.
Hey everyone, Rob Nelson here. Now, over the last week, I took my family here to Colorado for a family vacation. We're going to introduce our kids to their great-grandparents. There's a lot that I want to teach these kids. I want them to be good people and just learn to live life to the fullest. And it made me think about one thing. We're actually all teachers, whether we like it or not. What are we getting? Ice? Ice! Run and go get ice. Now, I, of course, enjoy teaching directly, both through videos like this and through presentations, but I realize that I haven't gotten to where I am completely on my own. I have a lot of people to thank, including both my grandfather and my dad. So for me to get my point across and to kind of say thank you to those two, let me explain. First of all, my grandfather, he was a dentist, and I watched him growing up, and I just learned the importance of being genuine and nice to every single person you meet. As a side note, he also taught me to work with metal. Not only did he teach me to make my wedding ring, this ring that we're making right here is actually from the old fillings from hundreds of different patients over the years. Now, from my dad. Of course, I was with him for the first 17 years of my life. I learned just a whole lot more from him. He taught me to have fun and to keep that youthful spirit in me always. Is that fun? Yeah? Of course, my dad probably won't admit that I do distinctly remember him saying I need to be responsible and need to be grown up and stuff like that. The biggest thing I do remember him telling me is to follow my dreams, and that's exactly what I've been doing.
Rob, the bulls are over there. Behind you.
But the nice thing is that I don't have to necessarily remember in my head how my childhood was, because my dad recently shared with me just thousands of hours of video that he shot over the years. Now, my dad was not a videographer or a filmmaker, but he filmed everything. In fact, this is him making a compilation video of our holidays in 1986, in which he blogged about Christmas.
Also, we have tacked on to the end of this is Sonia's first try at trying to narrate this film.
In fact, the more I watched, I realized that even this holiday, I'm taking almost exactly the same shots some 30 years later. Now, I'd like to think I took the filmmaking one step further, but it's just a good reminder that whatever we do, people are watching. If we have kids, our kids are watching. We just went and saw Santa, and it was really fun, right?
Yeah, right.
In fact, this was even more evident when Haley and I started looking through the footage on her phone and realized that August, my 4-year-old, had been blogging the entire week.
She was my mommy.
Hello, I am the mommy.
Hi, it's August 84.
So just remember, as you go through life, as you're making more films, people are watching you. You are a teacher. What kind of daddy are you going to be when you're grown up?
Science.
A science daddy?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter necessarily what you say, though. You don't have to formulate your thoughts because your actions speak louder than words. All right, we'll see you next Tuesday.
All right. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, I'm stopping this. All right, am I back on? Can you see me?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, I'm back. Well, the reason I wanted to share with you that is that I've been making films my whole life, and that's all I do is I go around and film stuff, and I want to communicate to you all that you can start doing what I'm doing right now. If there's anything that you're interested in from a science standpoint or sports or anything, there is science in it. And everybody has a video camera in one form or another. I mean, I use this, which is my phone, quite often. I use GoPros quite often. I use bigger cameras all the time. Actually, one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm working and I'm putting 6 GoPros all together and allowing it to come out as 360-degree video. So it's actually virtual reality filmmaking, that's all advanced stuff. But I just want to make sure that everybody knows that you can start doing all of this right now. And I think maybe it would be valuable, because I know we don't have a whole lot of time, to open it up for questions from you all, because I'm sure you have lots and lots of questions. And when we can get into more specifics of some of the things that we're doing, through that.
Okay, Rob, that sounds good. Let's start visiting some classrooms. So, Mrs. Edgar in Kansas, your mic is on.
What is your favorite place you have experienced?
Oh, man, there are so many places, and you would probably agree every place you go has something special, but I think Hawaii is one of my favorite places. I spent 5 years there, and I sailed between all the islands, but as a second runner-up, we spent 2 weeks living with baboons in Africa. That was pretty fun. Wow. So that's number 2. Good question, though. Good question.
All right, go ahead if you have another one.
Have you ever discovered an animal?
An animal new to science?
Yeah.
Well, I've been with a bunch of researchers who have discovered animals new to science. Most of the time they're bugs. I spend a lot of time with bug researchers because, believe it or not, even in our own houses in the U.S., you could find a new species, and that's part of what I've been doing recently. We've been traveling to all 7 continents looking at bugs in people's houses. You'd think you might have to go into the forest to find those, but you don't. I also worked with a friend of mine, Roland Kays, who studies kinkajous. And have you guys heard of the olingo or the olinguito? Brand new species of mammal just discovered in the forests of Colombia. And I helped make the video for that. So I didn't really discover it, but I helped share it with the world. So yeah.
All right, very cool. Let's visit our class in Sarnia, Mrs. Cowley's class.
Anybody? We don't have any volunteers right now, Joe.
That's okay, we can come back. Mrs. Murray's classroom. Do you guys have a question for Rob?
Yeah, Aiden, you want to go ahead and ask?
How has traveling impacted or changed your life?
Oh, well, that's a fantastic question, actually. I think everybody should travel, and travel as much as you can, because traveling does a couple of things. First of all, it puts great perspective to your life. A lot of times, if all you do is you live in your own little bubble, in your own little city that you're in, you might think that everything is boring where you live, and maybe everything is not going so great. But as soon as you travel, especially if you travel to some of these places in the world like the Amazon or Africa or Southeast Asia, where people are not quite as well off as we are, you start to realize that things are pretty cool where you are, and not just because we as Americans do quite well, but actually the plants and animals too. You start to realize that in the eastern deciduous forests, it's the epicenter of salamanders, or you realize that we have the largest trees in the world here in America. Stuff like that. It just makes your own home more interesting the more you travel. So that's a great question.
Frank, you want to ask a question?
All right, do you guys have another one?
Sure, here we go.
What is your favorite type of video to make?
That's another good question. So I've been on a lot of different types of productions, and just to kind of fill you guys in on what I do, I make a lot of videos online, and I write and I shoot and I produce and I make the animations for and I narrate those films. And sometimes I work with Animal Planet, and I'm just a host, and there's like 20 other people that are doing that. Actually, there's a video coming out on Animal Planet soon called Life After in Chernobyl, and we went to the nuclear waste zone of Chernobyl in what was the USSR, and that was intense. And that's really fun because I just have to concentrate on figuring out what the story is. I don't have to shoot everything. But when it comes down to it, I like doing smaller scale productions where it's me with a video camera and I can talk to an audience about whatever is most interesting to me, and I particularly like finding my friends who I studied with in school who are now doing really interesting things. And because I did marine science, oftentimes that's sharks. In fact, we have a shark video coming out this week, so make sure, if you guys are not already tuned in to what we're doing with Untamed Science Day, you and your teachers tune into that, because this week's going to be a really fun one. But yeah, those are my favorite ones, little tiny ones with my friends, particularly on things like sharks.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Flash, do you guys have a couple questions?
We do have a couple of questions. Well, I have two questions. One is for editing software. What kind of editing software do you use?
Oh, okay. That's a great question. A lot of people ask that kind of thing. I want to emphasize that it doesn't matter what kind of editing software that you use. Almost every editing software is going to allow you to do the very basics that we do here. So I have used iMovie in the past. I've used Adobe Premiere, and I've used Final Cut Pro X. Most of the time now, just so you guys all know, I'm using Final Cut Pro X because I have an Apple computer and it makes things really easy for me. So maybe that's something you're doing as well, and yeah, it does everything I need.
And then the second question, do you ever do slow motion videos, and if you do, what are they on?
Yes, I have done slow motion videos last year, and this is kind of an interesting question. Do you ever do slow motion video? I don't know if any of you guys have, or your parents have, these iPhone 6s. Well, they shoot really pretty cool slow-mo, so you should try out any of these things. What we did is we actually did videos on archery, so shooting a bow and an arrow. And I don't know if you guys realized this, but when you shoot an arrow out of a bow, it doesn't go straight. It actually, as you shoot it, it bends like this all the way until it hits the target. So you have to be a really good archer to be able to like bend it around the bow and hit the target. And so we did videos on that. Let's see, what else did we did? Oh, well, so if you guys haven't noticed from the videos that we do, I also use a lot of sports in my videos. We shoot on GoPros a lot. GoPros can shoot 240 frames per second, which is, what is that, like almost one-tenth of the speed in real life if you play it back. So skydiving, whitewater kayaking, I've done a lot of super slow-mo stuff of. And actually with this shark video we did a bunch of super slow-mo stuff of sharks eating. But really, anything that I find that's really fast, I do it in slow-mo. Good question.
All right. Good. I think we might have a future over there. All right. Rob, let me ask you. You did a hangout for us. I believe it was in September.
Right.
You shared the project you're working on, the looking for the bugs on 7 continents.
Right.
Right. Is there any updates?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So I'm working on 2 main projects right now. I'm working on a shark project, and I'm working on Bugs of the World. And if any of you have seen the Bugs in the World pieces, we're going to all the 7 continents. We've already been to San Francisco. That's North America. We've been to the Amazon. That's South America. And we've been to Sweden, so that counts as Europe. Now, what we have to do is we're going to go to Africa. We've not been anywhere else yet, but we're going to Africa in April. And then we're going to go to either New Zealand or Australia in August. The project actually just got a little bit spread out longer than I thought it was going to be. And we're still figuring out if we can do China. So that'll be a fun one. All these are really fun places to go. I'm kind of excited about it.
Okay, so classrooms, if you haven't already, I don't know if any of the classrooms joining us today have seen any of those videos, but there are, the first series of those are online on the Untamed Science YouTube page, so definitely worth checking out. Rob, another camera style I want to ask you about, because this is something I've wanted to kind of play around with my amateur filmmaking, I guess, is hyperlapse. Can you talk a little bit about using hyperlapse?
Yeah, definitely. So hyperlapse is this way of doing a really long time lapse, and actually I can show you guys real quick. Just kind of a show of hands. Does anybody know what hyperlapse filmmaking is? Okay, well let me just show you a quick example. I'm going to share my screen here. Ooh, let's see, how do I do that? Click this button. Okay, here we go, entire screen. I'm just going to show you how this works. Okay, so this is a hyperlapse. Do you guys see that? I'm going to back it up one more time so you can just see it how it goes. Okay, there we go. I'm going to stop sharing that screen. Plug in my earbuds. Okay, so a hyperlapse is basically a time lapse that moves, and what I do is I just put the camera on a tripod and I step forward at like every 5 seconds and take a picture. It's that simple. But maybe we can share the link to the tutorial. You can use anything from a GoPro to a bigger camera. I quite like using bigger cameras always for hyperlapse. You get better pictures. But I don't know if you guys know, you can actually use your phone to do it too. Instagram has an app called Hyperlapse, and it's an Instagram app on your phone. So if you guys like doing that sort of thing, write that down to look up later. Did that answer your question, Joe? I kind of got sidetracked, but. And
what about, maybe I'm thinking time lapse, where you leave the camera as well, say a sunset, and you want to catch it on the dock or something.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things to do is just a time lapse. All you do is you set up your camera, and you get an intervalometer. Phones already come with that set. In fact, I know that with my phone, all I go is to the camera and I can say start time lapse and we'll do it. The most important things are make sure you're on a tripod or you have your camera sitting on something and you're not touching it. And then the greatest thing with time lapses is you kind of are working, but you sit back and have a sandwich and you're making films. And then afterwards it looks really fun. So yeah, one of my favorite things to do. It's hard, by the way, Joe. I want to get into like a lot of details of all these like technical questions, but obviously we want to keep it brief. I just as a little throw out there for everybody who's watching, I have 2 filmmaking channels. So I know a lot of you watch YouTube probably. Untamed Science is where we do all of our science stuff, and then we have a channel called Rob and Jonas's Filmmaking Tips. So I work with my friend Jonas, and we talk about everything you need to know to take good photos and videos. So definitely check those out if you want to learn more.
All right. Well, let me visit our class in Sarnia again, see if they have a question for you. Mrs. Cowley's class. There we go.
I saw the TV behind you, and I was wondering what you won it for.
Oh, you saw this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought I would have one of these. This is an Emmy that we got from a documentary that we put on PBS in 2013, so two and a half years ago, called Mysteries of the Driftless. So if you're up anywhere in the Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, or Illinois region, there's an area called the Driftless Zone. I made a video on that. You should check it out. It's cool. Yeah. Very good eyes. Very good eyes. I didn't want to just bring it out and show you, but you saw it. So.
Okay. Well, Rob, one more camera style that might be worth talking about is macro.
Oh yeah, definitely. So macro filmmaking is taking videos of very small things and making them look large. And one of the things that I did recently is I did a video on how to take a GoPro like this, and you can actually have it with me right here. Which one is it? This one? No. Number 3. Which one did I cracked the lens off of one of these GoPros. I think it's number 2. I have too many GoPros. I can't keep track of. Oh, it's this one. Here we go. So you can take. Goodness gracious! You can take one of these GoPros. I know a lot of people have them or are getting them, and I'm going to show you right here. There we go. You can take off this little lens cover right there, and then you expose the inside of the camera, and you can actually screw that lens back and forth until you can take video of really tiny things. Again, I do have it's like an 8-minute long tutorial or something on how to do that on my YouTube channel. But yeah, if anybody wants to get into something and really impress your friends, I would encourage you to try to figure out how to take pictures of ants or little tiny things, because you're not used to seeing the world so tiny. And it's actually easier than you might think, because you can take something like your GoPro, and a lot of these phones will get really close to things, but that's one of my favorite things. You can also take a big camera. The difference, though, and I'm just going to kind of give you a little filmmaking lesson here. You see how big that lens is compared to this, right? Well, if you have an ant and you put the ant in front of this lens, the ant's going to look a lot smaller than if you put the ant in front of this lens, because your whole frame of your video gets shrunken down from the width of the lens. So the ant's just going to look tiny, even though it might fill the frame. But compared to this, it's just going to give a lot bigger image. It'll look like you're filming an elephant when you use the little tiny lens, and it's going to look like you're shooting an elephant from a long ways away if you're shooting with that. Okay, I don't know if that made sense, but tried to give a little overview there.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. This is Sutherland's class in Thunder Bay. I don't think we visited you yet. Do you have any questions for Rob?
Yes, we do. Come on up.
What was the most dangerous adventure you went on?
Oh, that's a really good question. Actually, I have, well, okay, so danger is very relative. I've jumped out of a lot of airplanes, and that might be dangerous to some people. I think probably visiting Chicago, most dangerous. Surprisingly, when you go out in the wild, I maybe have a little more faith in the animals than getting on a subway in Chicago. But I'm sure you probably want to hear about the animals. We went swimming with 30 Galapagos shark in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. That was kind of dangerous, so we did that.
It's fun.
Oh, sorry, say that question again.
What was the thing the most fun?
Oh, the most fun. I'm probably going to be mentioning a lot of like really extreme sport type things, but the most fun thing I think I did was learn to hang glide for a video about the atmosphere. For those of you who don't know what hang gliding is, you get a big kite basically, and you jump off a cliff with it, and then you float down to the ground. That's pretty fun.
What was your favorite video you've made?
Favorite video I've made, I think this probably relates back to the favorite place I've been. I think when we were in Kenya hanging out with the baboons, that was probably my favorite trip so far. And Haley, my wife, she's right here. She just wants to say hi. She went with me and did the baboons. So.
Hi there.
But by the way, Haley and I, we go back and forth and do these videos together now. We've been doing them for 8 years. Yeah, almost 10 years. So. And actually, hold on, I'm going to introduce one more person. Get over here, Cameron. So I don't, I do whitewater kayaking every day. That's my actual sport. And this is my kayaking partner. I had to skip today.
Training partner.
Yeah, my training partner. Because I had to skip today so I could do this video with you guys. But he went out and kayaked without me. But yeah, just wanted to say hi because he's here.
Very cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Rob, today.
Alright.
There's these classrooms right here.
Okay.
Okay, get out of there.
Have a great day.
Thank you. All right, let's. Why don't we visit each classroom one more time, Rob, and then we can let the classrooms get on with their days because I think they're probably getting close to the end of their period. So, sure. Mrs. Edgar in Kansas, your microphone's on if you have a final question for Rob.
What is your favorite camera?
My favorite camera right now is a GoPro. Surprisingly, I have these really big cameras, but if I ever gave a recommendation, it's a GoPro because I can put it in my pocket and I can mount it on my head. I have all these cool mounts. Just by the way, this is my favorite mount right now. So you stick it on your head and you put the GoPro right there. Good question.
All right, Mrs. Murray's class in New Jersey. You guys have a final question for Rob?
Yes, Katie has a question.
Sure.
How much time does it take to edit a video?
Oh, well, that's a great question. Editing takes a lot of time, more than you'd think. I think the minimum amount of time to edit a video is 8 hours. So it does take a while. I would say for a longer piece, maybe 16. This is a 3-minute video. But if I put more time into it, it's 16 hours. Yeah. So plan a lot of time for editing.
All right. All right. Our mixed group. You guys have another question for Rob?
Yeah. Is it okay if I ask 2 questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead. Go.
So the first one is, in our school we have a makerspace, and I was wondering if you know what that is.
You said a makerspace?
Yeah.
No, that's something that, no. Is that a YouTube sponsored thing?
It's also known as a hackerspace, I think.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to write that down and look it up. That's cool.
In our makerspace, we were wondering if you have any science equipment that you would suggest to us that we could buy.
Well, and this is me not knowing exactly what you have, but any sort of microscope attachment that you can hook into, say, a video camera. I know that there are lots of little microscope attachment pieces that you can hook into your phone or to a computer. And like I said, I don't exactly know what a makerspace is, but obviously because I do a lot of videos and I think that sharing what you're learning about is one of the most important things. I would say anything that allows you to record your science experiments and share them would be one of the top things on my list.
Okay, yeah, and another cool suggestion too that I've used with my grade 8s is we study cells, so we have a camera that we can put right up to the microscope and we can see what we're looking at on the whiteboard, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, nice.
Let's see, Mrs. Sutherland, you guys have a final question for Rob?
Yes, we do. Was there any place in the world that you haven't been that you wanted to go?
I've never been to Antarctica, and it's not a place that most people visit. And so I'm hoping that on this bugs video, or on this bugs trip, we can make that our 7th continent and actually like do it. So that's my last place I'd really like to go.
All right, and Mrs. Cowley's class, do you guys have one more question for Rob?
I don't think so, Joe.
No, that's okay. All right. Well, Rob, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. I know, well, first of all, thanks for taking a break from your kayaking. That's awesome. that you got to hang out with so many of us today.
Yeah, for sure.
Your YouTube page is phenomenal. I highly recommend that any classrooms watching, if you haven't already, I know some of you have watched some of the videos that Rob sent. Check them out because they're amazing. And we'll definitely be connecting again in the future as time goes on. So Rob, thanks again for sharing a little bit of your filmmaking.
Yeah, thank you. And can I share, just want to say one other thing to everybody. I know that you probably all have lots of questions, and I like interacting and answering everybody's questions. So definitely, if you have a chance, go over to our YouTube channel, watch videos, and comment on them. Let me know if you watched them, what you thought, and I will respond to you guys. I do like doing that because, well, like I showed at the beginning, we're all teachers, and I like being able to share.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn the mics on now so the classrooms can say goodbye and thank you, and sign off for today.
All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you later, maybe in another video.
All right, thanks, Rob. It's always my favorite part to hear them yelling at the end. You have yourself a good day, and we'll connect again soon.
Okay, thanks, Joe. It was good doing this. Thank you. I appreciate it. You're doing this. All right, bye.